In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to connect to a MySQL database using the MySQL node package. By the end of this video, you will know how to 1. Install the MySQL package using Node Package Manager. 2. You will know how to import the MySQL package using Node. 3. You will know how to configure your connection to connect to your MySQL database. 4. To work out whether you had a successful connection or an error. And 5. To assist you to debug that one error that you've received. That's it. So let's move on. Hello, welcome to this video. My name's David Thorne and you are watching David's Videos. As discussed, I'm going to be showing you how to use the MySQL Nodes package. It's super simple. There's nothing complicated about it. And if you do think it's going to be difficult, you'll be shocked by the end of this because it's really, really simple. I'm going to be showing you from start to finish how to install and then connect to your MySQL database. But don't forget though to like, subscribe, share, and if you do have any questions, make sure you write them in the comment section below. And don't forget to read the comments below because it can be that someone else has already asked that question and I've already answered it for you. Don't forget to tap that bell button so you get notified when I release any new videos. If you haven't checked out my channel already, I've got multiple videos about MySQL and how to connect to databases and also how to configure Linux databases and servers to host your own MySQL database and configure it if that's what you require. There'll be a link in the description below for you to access all of my playlists and my channel. If you do like my videos, then maybe share them to other people because it could be that there's other people out there who could benefit from this knowledge. Otherwise, without further ado, let's get started. A couple of prerequisites that we have to talk about before moving on to use the Node Package Manager. I'm guessing that you've already got a MySQL database configured where you can use a host, username and password to connect to. You're going to have to be able to connect to this one database from externally, which means you are already going to have to have configured your MySQL database and user to be able to have access it from externally. If you haven't done this already, then I suggest that you go away and do that first of all. If I have made a video about teaching you how to do this, then there'll be a video linked above right now. Else, then I'll see you back in this one video. So how have I got this set up? I have a MySQL container set up using Docker on my Mac, and it's running on port 3306. And this has a user of David with a password of 123456. And the root password is 123456. I used Docker Compose to set it up, and yeah, it's basically running. I've already been onto it to test that I can access it using 0.0.0.0 because obviously the Docker container is on another network, so it means I can access it from another network as well. So this is already pre-configured. If you want me to make a video about how I did this, then write in the comments below, and if more than enough people say that they want to see it, then I've got no problems doing it. So that's the background of this all set up. Otherwise, it can be that you've got a MySQL machine on a remote server and stuff like that. Most importantly, you can access it from externally. This is the important thing that I'm trying to say to you. Otherwise, you'll get a whole bunch of errors and you'll be asking me questions of why I'm getting an error. It's because of this. All right. So without further ado, let's get started installing the MySQL package using Node Package Manager. Right, let's go. And if you do have any more questions, write them in the comments down below. All right, let's go. Okay, just before we move on using Node, let's make sure we have a MySQL connection using a basic MySQL client command. Okay, so I'm in my terminal, so we'll just say MySQL-u, first of all, to declare the username that we're going to use, plus then -h to say the host. And like I said, we're going to use 0000, and then we're going to say -p to say, hey, give us then the password. And 123456, I'm going to type in, press enter, and now I know I've got access to it. And if I say then show databases, then we see that we've got a YouTube and information underscore schema databases. So now we know that we have a database that we can access. And this database is going to be the YouTube database that we want to access. So we have all the information that we need. We have the user, we have the host, we have the password, and we have the database name. Super happy. We know everything's up and running. So let's move on to installing the MySQL package using Node Package Manager. Okay, so let's exit out of this and clear the screen. Just to show you which Node version I'm using. Currently, I'm using the version 14.8.0. It could be that you're using another version, but that's the one I'm using. So let's clear the screen and we'll just say npm init to create our package.json, and we'll just say enter, 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 because we're not really that bothered about it. All right, so now we can see that we've got everything done, and if we ls, then we see our package.json. Let's open up Visual Code because it's just better, and we can see now we have our package.json file. So now that we have our package.json file created, we need to be able to install the MySQL package as a dependency. This is done super easy by using the npm install command. To know that we actually add it to our package.json, we're going to use the --save option too, and that will add it to our package.json file for future use. So let's just run the npm install MySQL --save and press enter. Okay, as you can see on the terminal, it's created a log file for package-log.json, and it's added the MySQL version 2.18.1 to that one file. And we can see in our package.json, it's also added it here. We've got our node_modules folder and our log file. So everything was successful. We can now move on to creating our JavaScript file to configure our connection to connect to our MySQL database using MySQL's package in Node. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a file in our folder, and we'll just go ahead and call it connection.js. Now, in order to use the MySQL package, we obviously have to import it first of all. So let's just say const and MySQL is equal to require and then MySQL and end it with a semicolon. The first thing we're going to have to do now is to create a connection object in order to then connect to our database. So let's define another variable and we'll call this connection. And this is going to then say MySQL.createConnection. And this then takes an object. So inside of that object, the first thing we're going to define is host. This connection config defines lots of different things, but we're just going to use the basic information of user, password, and host. And that's it, the basic information that we need to connect to. So our host we define as 0.0.0. And the user was David, and the super strong password was 123456. Now we have our connection object. We can go ahead and connect to our MySQL database using the MySQL package asynchronously. So we can do that by saying connection.connect, and this then takes a callback. There is also another option where you can give configurations and a callback, but we're just going to use the callback. And this callback receives two parameters. The first one is error, and the second one is args. We're not going to use the args, but we're just going to define it there anyway, so you can see it's there. So if the error is not undefined or not nil, we're going to do something with it because we know we've got an error. Otherwise, as far as we're concerned, we don't actually have to do anything. But for this video tutorial, till we know that we've got a connection, we'll just say connected and end our console.log with a semicolon. All right, so now that we've got an error, we can just say console.log error, and for the time being, just say code, and that's going to output the code that it returned. So let's save that. Everything's good. We'll come to our integrated terminal and say node and then connection.js and press enter to then execute our command to see whether we have a connection or not, and we should have. And there you can see it's running in the background. We've now connected to the one database. Nothing else happened. So like I said, we're now going to show you about how to debug the errors that you receive. As I mentioned, within our config for our create connection, we gave three parameters: a host, username, and password. That means that we've got three things that we could configure incorrectly. So let's have a look at the three different errors that we could get. So let's put the host to be 0.0.0.1 first of all. Let's stop the connection, press Control L, and then run it again. And there we can see we get eHost unreach. So we know that we've got an unreachable host because there's not a MySQL server running there. So let's now go back and put it at 0.0.0.0, and we'll change it now to James. And we'll run it again, and we get ER access denied error. Simply being, it could connect to the MySQL server, but it didn't have a user with that specific username. So that was a simple error. Now, the next thing is if we change it back to David and change the password to 123457, we should then get another connection error because we know the password is invalid. So we do it again and we get ER access denied error. Okay, so now we have this. Now we have the final error that we need, is that if we have everything configured correctly, so we've got the host, the username and password configured correctly, and now I shut down the MySQL server to see what happens. Now I've put the Docker container down that was running the MySQL server. Let's see what connection error we get now. So let's run node connection.js once again. Now we get econ refuse, so connection refuse, because essentially it isn't there. There's nothing there to run now because that one port and that one host, it just doesn't exist anymore. Right, let's run it again just to make sure everything's working. Okay, so I've started the server once again. It's up and running. And now we can see that we are connected. So in this video tutorial, you learned 1, how to install the MySQL package using Node Package Manager. 2, how to import the MySQL package in a JavaScript file. 3, how to create a MySQL connection object. 4, how to configure that MySQL connection object. 5, also then how to connect to the database. 6, how to debug whether you got a successful connection or not. And 7, to debug which error that you did get. So, like I said from the beginning, it isn't that difficult. I hope that I've explained every step here. So now you should have a really good understanding about what it is that's happened. Okay, that's the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and write any comments that you have or questions or errors that you've received in the comment section below. Otherwise, don't forget to tap that bell icon to get notified when I release any new videos. With that said, that's the video over. There'll be videos on the screen right now, which you could go and watch. So see you in the next video. Stay safe and goodbye. Bonus content: if you haven't configured your MySQL server correctly to use normal passwords that aren't encrypted, you're going to get an error. Take the error, paste it into Google, and you'll find out that you need to alter your MySQL server to use native passwords. Otherwise, if you can't do that, write in the comments down below and I'll send you a link to where you can be able to do this. It's super simple and you'll find out, but only if you've watched all the way to the end of the video, which you have. Thank you very much. You are so special to me. Bye then.